Hello and welcome to another Millennial Minute. I'm your host, Julia Sun. Today's question, do the two political parties have too much power? You've already heard from our guest, political strategist Ajay Bruno and Kat Murti from Feminists for Liberty. Hey, welcome you guys to the show. Look, should voters seriously consider voting for a third party? Because some people are afraid that won't change anything. Ajay.
Look, I've always been a registered Republican, but the way things are these days, I thought more and more it would be better if we had more than two parties. The problem is, though, the way the system is set up, it's basically a rigged system. I mean, you could have, not that I'm a fan of his, but I mean, Bloomberg, with all his money, he couldn't buy himself the nomination. So how could we have a party where they're able to break in and get past this entrenched two-party system the way things are? So I'd like to see it happen. I don't know, though, how it's going to change unless there are significant changes in how elections work in this country. The system is kind of set up that way. It's unfortunate, but that's why you rarely see, occasionally there'll be an independent who wins a governor's or a Senate seat. That's rare. So I don't know how we change that. In this last election, we had people who were saying, you know, you have two choices. There were Republicans who didn't like Trump that voted for Biden. I don't think that's a good solution either. So I wish there were more options, and I'd like to see a situation where we can come to that scenario.
Well, Kat, do you think we can change this system?
I think that we can, and I think part of it is pushing back against this narrative that you only have two choices or two viable choices. The reason that we hear that message over and over again is because the two major parties want you to believe that you can either vote for one of them or go home. This is the same reason that we hear, for instance, at the early part of the vote counting where it looked as if Donald Trump had won, people were blaming libertarians for stealing votes from Biden. Later on, once it looked like Biden had won, we heard the script flipped, and people started complaining that libertarians were stealing votes from Trump. Of course, none of these people would have voted for either Biden or Trump at all, right? The problem is that the parties need to start catering to what Americans actually want, and Americans are fundamentally not happy with either the Democrats or the Republicans. The only reason that they're still winning those seats is they have control of the narrative, and they have control, unfortunately, of a lot of very biased electoral laws that allow them a lot of advantages. But the more that we push back against that narrative, the more chances we have for candidates who actually reflect our values.
Well, yeah, see, both of you have said that this system has existed for too long. Then let me ask you first, Kat, when do you think we will see a non-Republican or Democrat candidate to a major political office? Which year?
Someone to win.
Yes.
I think we're getting there. I don't think it'll be in the next couple elections likely, but you never know. I used to not think that cannabis would be legalized in my lifetime, and it's now legal in most of the country, and that's happened in the last 10 years, right? So you don't know how fast this stuff can happen, but so far we've had two Libertarian Party candidates, which is a third party, make national news in the last two elections. They were on the ballot in all 50 states, and they gained votes each time. So I do think that as people increasingly understand that a third-party candidate is a viable option, and as the two major parties continue to sort of devolve from the values that attracted a lot of their voter bases, it's becoming more and more likely that we'll see someone from a different party eventually win.
Yeah. AJ, when are we going to get a non-Republican or Democrat as president?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously the closest would have been probably Perot, and that was a spoiler candidacy. All that did was give Bill Clinton the White House, and you know, the better candidate lost in that election. So I think we want to avoid a situation where you have someone who's there as a spoiler. So we would need someone who had a viable chance of actually winning. I don't know when that will happen. I mean, like I said, you could have billions and billions of dollars, and maybe you could have a chance at it. But any reasonably normal candidate, it's tough the way the system is. So we need to change how money runs politics. I think it goes both ways, Republicans and Democrats. I don't like the way it is now. There's way too much invested in that. And people need to realize there are more options, whether that's Libertarians, Constitution Party, more parties that don't exist yet. I think we need to look at different scenarios. We can't just say, these are the two choices we have and there's no other options. That's bad for the country, and people need to think smarter than that.
Yep. I'm glad you two agree on something. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. I'll see you back here next time.